Hi there. Welcome to the pod where spirituality is accessible and exciting.
Do you find yourself drawn to the magical and mystical side of life?
If you're ready to explore and expand your spiritual path,
Then you are in the right place.
I'm Jennafer.
And I'm Lola.
We
We
are
are
modern
modern mystics.
Sometimes I cannot breathe. I'll be calling out. Wanna look at me like they cannot breathe. I'll be calling out.
What makes a place sacred to you? Because really, any location, whether it's kind of natural or man made, that carries kind of some quiet reverence to it or some stillness, spiritual presence, can really be a sacred space.
Yeah, I agree. For me, when I was a little kid, I I was like I just felt so great in trees. My best friend, we shared a fence. She lived right behind me, and they had these two gigantic. I don't know, they were enormous to me. They seemed like 1,000 feet tall as a child. Russian olive trees that we would climb up, and we would literally like bungee cord our dolls to the branches. So they would be there with us. We were playing dolls. No, we were just climbing the tree with dolls in the tree with us.
That's super cute.
And
It's like a clubhouse without
yes.
the clubhouse. Yeah.
Yes. And we had like another neighbor had this giant pine and a bird got kicked out of the nest, I think, or fell.
Ooh.
And so we made it a little house. And I don't know what happened to the bird. Luckily, this didn't end in trauma for me. Nature took care of the bird and I didn't have to see it or know about it. Then that turned into a fairy house. But there was something for my very hectic, I'm number 9 of 11 kids. Being next to a tree felt so still, as you were talking about that stillness.
Stillness. I love that.
And long after my friends would leave, or even at night when I would want to go stargaze, my mom was really into the stars. I would go sit with my back against a tree, or under a tree's branches, or even up in a tree. And I'm an Aries rising. There was a lot of climbing in my childhood. But it was just this. They were beautiful, they were peaceful. Mostly what made them sacred to me was they soothed my soul, I would say. And I think that that's a signifier maybe of sacred spaces. It's a balm, a soothing to you.
I agree. I also think sacred spaces are more about, for me, they were connection points too. Like as a child, I grew up in Los Angeles and we would go to the beach. And of course, the beach was fun. And, we'd go in the water and we'd build sandcastles and catch sand crabs. There we go. I was mixing
Say
that
that
up
10
in my
times
brain.
fast.
I know. I'm like, no, stop. That's one word. Anyway, and sometimes, and the beach is not quiet. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not quiet at all. There's, besides the fact that there's people and seagulls and all kinds of things, the water's never quiet. But I always felt like this really weird stillness when the water would come to the shore. And when I was a kid, that was probably the first time I ever felt like there was something bigger than me, is being at the ocean. And just kind of the idea of I would sit right at the edge of the water and make little sandcastles, and then like the water would come and kind of start moving it away and that kind of thing. And it felt like a game to me, but it also felt like I was having a conversation with the waves and the ocean. And so for me, the ocean has always been fairly sacred because it was one of the first places I ever had a sense of there's something bigger than me.
And wow, yeah, with the ocean, it definitely gives you that sense. As you were talking, I could hear the waves come in, and to me, it almost sounded like a whisper as they hit the shore.
Yes.
This like shh.
That's so true.
Sound.
I literally talked to them when I was a kid. I gave them names, and there was like one name for the actual water that touched the shore, and one name for like whatever was making the waves just beyond it. And then, all of that. So I just, like, imagination wise, I did feel like they were talking to me, and it was really lovely and very connective. And if you ever swim in the ocean, you have a very strong understanding of there's something bigger than you.
How tiny you are.
Yes. And how, even just tides and
Yeah.
surf and all of that can be so much bigger than you are. And anyway, but I really loved that because even though I would also have fun and hang out with my family and all of that stuff, I would have these moments where I just felt really connected. And so that was really sacred for me.
I think you've hit on a key point of sacred space is it does connect us to more than us.
Yes.
Even with the trees, I also spoke with the trees, right? Maybe that's part of your sacred space. If it's nature, nature is very alive, right?
Yes.
So at least I believe nature is very alive.
I
Scientists
totally
may disagree
agree.
with me, but I believe nature is very alive and they have wisdom to give us. And sometimes that comes in the whisper of the wave hitting the shore
Hmm.
and being able to name that as a sacred, special connection for yourself. Or sometimes it comes as images that would come as you would dream under a tree or whatever way they speak to you. I think sacred space sometimes calls to us to
I
remind
could
us
not
we're
agree
part of
more.
that
Absolutely.
bigger than us thing, right?
Yes.
That's huge. That the trees, now we've proven like the mycelium networks that help the trees communicate with each other, right? How this interconnectedness, the waves, the ocean obviously teaches us that lesson. So that there's something about you're part of this gigantic earth ecosystem in nature. Not that that's the only sacred space, but it is a huge one. And it's something that you don't have to work very hard to create. Nature feels sacred if you just slow down a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely sacred spaces in nature. I love the redwood forests in California. They're gorgeous.
Yes.
We have beautiful mountains here in Utah, and you can feel just super connected there. People feel connected near lakes or rivers, like all of those things. So I think there are lots of natural places that feel sacred. I also think you're right. Like man made places can be very sacred as well, because I think that connection point for many people is in places like temples or churches or altars or shrines. Um, Even, I don't know, a corner of your home can be kind of set aside to be a sacred space for reflection.
I agree. As I was pondering on this week, I kept thinking of my granddad, and his sacred space was at the ball field. I kid you not.
I
That
love
was
that.
his sacred space. And it's definitely man-made and it's chaotic, but this stillness came over him and he was at peace and happy and so him.
I love
So
that.
I think yes, they can be man-made and while they can be traditionally sacred spaces, they also don't have to be traditionally sacred spaces.
I could not agree more. And I think sometimes it feels sacred because maybe there's a lot of history there. Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to stand in front of Notre Dame and the cathedral in Paris and not feel like a sense of kind of awe. But sometimes it's just, I don't know, a feeling that there's something more to what you see there, like something a little deeper. And I love
Yes.
that too.
Yes. This church I went to in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not Catholic, but there's this beautiful old church and help me out. Help me out. I don't remember the name. It's a beautiful old Catholic church in Atlanta. I was just there visiting a friend not in Atlanta, Savannah, Georgia. Sorry. Just visiting a friend who has a condo there and just hanging out. We were doing just tourist stuff. And we walked into this church and the sun was hitting the stained glass. And it struck me of all the prayers and all the hope that has been poured into that
Hmm.
space makes it sacred.
I love that.
So Notre Dame, your think about people praying for their team to win at a baseball field, right?
Yes,
The energy of collective sacred hope
absolutely.
could make a space sacred, I think.
I also think places can be sacred because they're sacred to someone else. Like,
Mm.
I'm not necessarily Catholic, But if I'm in a Catholic church, I will light a candle for my grandparents because
Yes.
they were Catholic. And I will, sit and, remember them for a minute or whatever and kind of go from there. So it doesn't even have to be someplace that you feel super drawn to, or it could just be a connection place to ancestors, and that works too.
Yes. I know a couple of close people to me have lost children, and their graves are sacred space.
Worse.
And one of my friends calls it office hours. They're going to go to his office hours to go visit him, and the other one, that's like his home, and they're going over to his house to visit him. And it's a very sacred time to them, and a very hallowed ground to them. And that's, I think we see that in respect for native burial grounds, or,
Yes,
we expect a certain code of behavior in a cemetery.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that sacredness to others, whether it's people or whatever, yes, I agree.
Love that. I think that's also one of the best things about sacred spaces is that that's really where intuition speaks to us, or where, we can connect in a way that gives us perspective and peace and that kind of thing. And honestly, whether it's like a naturally occurring place or a man-made space, or it's just in I don't know, a corner of your home, or even your car can be sacred depending on what it feels like to you. And I think that's the thing that's really important is, how do you feel that sacredness or connect to that sacredness? And some people feel better doing that through ritual, which is fine. Like
Yes.
I go in and light a candle for my grandparents, things like that. And other people kind of go by feeling, if that makes sense. Like it can be a place where you just feel super peaceful, like we've already talked about, or even where your energy sort of expands. And that really helps you feel like, oh, there's something here for me, that kind of thing. But it's something that we can always adjust. It doesn't have to be that sacred all the time, or if we designate it as sacred, then there's no reason why it isn't. It doesn't have to be blessed by anyone else if we feel connected to it.
Right. Um, I raised my kids in the DC metro area, and traffic there is not the best. I'll just say that. It gets a little hectic, and there's certain times on certain roads where it's literally a parking lot. And I am notorious. I get like claustrophobic. I've been in several car accidents. And so being in traffic strains me a little bit. It
Yeah,
kind of pushes me. So I'm not really in sacred space mindset when I'm in my car generally, right? I'm not in
right.
that
That's so
mode.
true.
And yet this one time I'm driving down and we're hitting a parking lot, and I have all these corrective thought patterns that I try and implement when I'm in that strained state of, okay, so part of what I would do is make up stories about why people are so rude and cutting everyone off. Oh, their grandma called and they've got to go help her. She's fallen, right? I just would make up whatever story that would make
Whatever
their
helped. Yep.
rude behavior acceptable to me, right? Yeah, that way I would stay soothed and not overreact and honk my horn and scream at people that can't hear me in their car, right? Choose not that. It doesn't serve any purpose. As I was sitting there one day doing this, all of a sudden, just what you were speaking, the space expanded. And I was overcome with awe that here I am in the middle of this crazy rush hour traffic, and everyone beside me is going about their lives, and they're so connected to the universe or God or all that is, the everything, whatever we want to call it, just like me. And their life is just as it's diverse. It's right. There's nothing that's the same about most of us. We all lead very different lives. And yet in this moment, here we are together on this freeway, and connection to just fellow human beings. My car is not sacred space to me usually, but it can become that in a moment of expansion.
Absolutely.
So I really love that idea of it can change. It can be fluid. And that, you can see, I get like emotional about it still,
Yes.
because it was such a profound moment of connection.
That's beautiful. I also think that people feel kind of a call to certain places, if that makes sense. Like, people want to see um, traditional, or well, not super traditional, but natural sites. Like, I don't know, people want to go to Stonehenge,
Yeah, or
or
the arches in Utah, right?
yes, or the arches in Utah, or the energy vortices in Sedona.
Oh, yes.
Places like that, or even people still feel a call to go on pilgrimages.
Yes.
I know that Muslims try to pilgrimage to Mecca once in their lifetimes.
Which, have you ever looked into that? Oh my gosh, it's kind of crazy to me what they do. It's so, pilgrimages blow me away. I'm like, I don't know if I'm that committed to
It's a lot
anything.
of walking.
It is a lot of
Yeah.
walking. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Squirreled me.
Oh,
I've been in awe of people that can
yes.
pilgrimage. Like,
I have a friend who just did the Camino de Santiago, which is in Spain and Portugal, and I guess you can do like the whole thing, or you can do parts of it, or
right.
whatever. But it is miles and miles and miles of walking. But for her, it gave her dedicated time to connect,
I see.
and so it is. I mean, it dates back to medieval times, for goodness sake. Like,
Right.
people have been pilgrimaging there for so long, and there are movies about it and books about it and all kinds of things. And but yeah, I think there's something really interesting about not just being called to a place, but a route,
I
and
see. Yes.
and having the whole route be part of the sacredness.
Oh, that really is fascinating. That brings to my mind the there's debate whether she's a goddess or not, but the symbol of what she's symbolizing, I think we can all relate to. She's called Ellen, Ellen of the Ways, and it's a goddess that's newer in like England,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's
Haven't
about
heard
the
of this.
reindeer tracks. So like the Sami would follow the herds. All of our ancient ancestors used to follow the herds, and their reindeer tracks or the buffalo tracks would be the sacred route. The migration
Wow.
route could be a sacred space. It was to them. It meant life.
Of course it did. Yeah.
So that
I love that.
cyclical nature of, I've never related a pilgrimage to the route. Thank you for
Yes.
that. That's really powerful. Of even getting into the practice of a meditation could be a route, or
Yes.
just sitting in your sacred space, whether it's a corner on a pillow or, I'm lazy, so it's a recliner with air conditioning. So I'm not gonna feel so sacred sweating to death. It's just not me. So I'm gonna be sweating to death.
I am the same, but I do like to take driving routes if I feel like they are really connective for me. When I was in college, if I was like overstimulated or stressed or whatever, I would drive a route, and like halfway through the route was like a little convenience store.
I love
And
it.
I would get a Clearly Canadian, which
Oh my
is like
gosh.
this flavored bubbly water that is so great. And I don't even know if they still make it. Probably not.
I found it at Smith's, just shout out for Utah. Like a few weeks ago, they have it at Smith's Marketplace.
Oh my
So
gosh, I'm going to Smith's.
now I
Anyway,
know.
yeah, and so I would get a little Clearly Canadian or whatever, and I would drive home. It was like this weird kind of thing, and it became shorthand for my college roommate and I, like, do we need to go get a Clearly Canadian?
I
Like
love it.
that
I
kind
love
of thing.
it.
But it was one of those things that just cleared my mind because it took me away from something that was stressful, or it gave me a little bit of space to just be able to kind of get back into my own energy from, being overwhelmed by other people's energy.
I really love that this part of what sacred space is taking care of you and your body, emotionally,
Yes,
mentally, physically. It's hard to be in sacred space if you're not okay.
that's so true. And it's so the opposite of a vicious cycle.
Right, right. Interrupting.
Yes, it's like they feed each other. And so
Yep.
that's a really positive thing, especially because we can just live in our heads so much, and we can overthink things so much. And so just being able, whether it's taking a route or visiting a place or just having a space in your home that feels like, okay, I can always go to that room, that corner, that tree in my backyard
Yep.
and feel that kind of centeredness. And I think that's really lovely.
Yeah. This, in hypnotherapy, we call it change state. So I'm on a downward spiral. I'm thinking about homework or work or whatever, or my kid that I'm stressed about, or my health, right? We have a lot of things that stress people out in this world. And changing state, it interrupts the neural pathway. And so if we're doing that intentionally to enter sacred space, that can be a powerful mechanism of
That.
going to get a clearly Canadian is a signal. It's now a neural pathway of changing state for
Yes.
you, right?
Yes.
So that you can use it as a tool. You can create your own shift into sacred space on purpose by using this mechanism of change state.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating. It doesn't take forever to do that.
No.
You know, it can be something that happens just in the blink of an eye, but it is about the state
Yes.
more than anything else. And I think that's really lovely. I also think that, you know, we can have inner sacred space as well,
Yes.
whether it is in a place of meditation, or if you've ever done a shamanic journey, usually you'll be guided to create a space for yourself in a shamanic journey, whether it's like a garden or a home or that kind of thing. And the idea is when you go back to that place, you tend it, right? You, I don't know, clean it or weed it or whatever it is you need to do. And that way it symbolizes taking care of yourself and taking care of different aspects of you. But just having a quiet space within yourself is really important as well.
And you can use that sacred space as an anchor back to this reality in time.
Yes.
For me, it is my tree in my backyard. I know you're shocked. Everyone's shocked. But I journey through that tree. I use it as an entrance point to that other
nice.
world. And then I return through the
Through the
tree
tree.
to this time and space.
I love that.
And the further you journey and the more you play with this, I highly recommended. Often it's called your axis mundi, your tie to this time and space.
I love that.
So that's a great point of using journey work as a place to create sacred space in your mind. We didn't write this down, but it just came to me because a lot of people have online altars today on Pinterest and other places. That is your sacred space too. You can enter that with your imagination,
I like that.
just like the garden or whatever else you're creating
Sure.
in your journey work. You can enter your altar sacred space through imagination, which is how we journey.
I think that's beautiful. I think there are lots of different ways. Sometimes people use sacred space for inspiration, but I think a lot of the time it's more the right word. It's not necessarily, it's just a place to access for your own kind of peace of mind.
Yes.
And that feels really important at a time when we're just so busy doing all the time. Like being able to sit and just be and connect is really, really important.
That's part of why I really like this idea that you've shared of the pathway to sacred space, going on a certain track every time to enter sacred space. Just like we go to a church and you can feel the energy,
Yes.
or you go to a ceremony and it's the collective energy. You can create collective energy through a track to your sacred space. It will build up that energetic over time for your own sacred space, whether
Yeah.
that's inside of you, which we haven't really gotten into. But
Yeah.
that is probably my most sacred space, is going with it. I don't know about you.
I think that's so true. And just like outer sacred spaces are tended, whether it's like through cleaning or I don't or just keeping the space. I keep thinking about like ancient Greek and Egyptian temples were,
Yes.
really like taken care of by priests and priestesses of the gods. And but you need to do that for your insides too. So if your sacred space is just kind of inside of you, then being able to take care of it or being able to visit and commune with it on a regular basis is a good way to kind of keep it that way. And I feel like sometimes that's just a place of inner peace. I honestly, sometimes sacred space can be this moment of clarity
Yeah.
or a moment of, nope, that's not for me. Like anything that just kind of like gives you a really clear path to
Yes.
to what you need to do or not do or whatever. It can be very sacred as well.
Yeah, we've really focused on the positives of this, but sacred space does, you did mention intuition, and sacred space does tie deeply to our intuition. The more we can enter that quiet stillness within, the more we can hear the nope, not that. The more we can hear yes, that. So I
Absolutely.
think that's a really important use of sacred space is entering space, sacred space as you're asking pivotal questions to direct your life. And if you've already created that sacred space within you, or a corner in your house, or a ritual, or whatever it is for you, your Pinterest board, it's going to be much easier because you're not having to create the space and then seek the answer. You already have that track, that pathway
Yes.
into sacred space, and then you just have to go and ask the question.
I
So make
love
it
that.
easy on you and make the space when you don't need it.
I love that. I also think a lot of people create altar space in their home, even if it's just a shelf or, a little corner cubby or whatever. And people sometimes use that to connect to their ancestors, to connect to themselves, to connect to their gods, whatever
Hmm.
they believe in, just as long as they're somehow communing with the everything and getting that um, peace and perspective.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I think it's really funny because there's a lot of different ways to create altars, but really, even just designating the space and just knowing you can go there is really the biggest part of it. Um, and just setting the intention that this is the space where I commune and where I get quiet, that kind of thing is really important. So, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't have it in a busy space in your home. It means that even in the midst of busyness, you can have a space that helps you be able to like calm down a little bit and just focus and connect.
Yeah. Another point for me as you're talking is you feel safe there. I don't think you can enter sacred space without feeling safe. That's why the car stood out to me so much. It's not usually a space I feel safe in,
Mm,
but in that moment, I felt safe in my car,
I love that.
which is probably why I could enter sacred spaces. We were at a standstill. Nobody's moving. There's no threat to me
Yep.
in that moment. So I think that that's part of this. In the busyness of our homes, most of us feel safe most of the time. And so your altar can be your kitchen where you cook for yourself or others and commune with, I'm nurturing me. Like that could be your sacred space where you're very busy. So I agree with that. It's not necessarily oming in the corner.
Right.
I wasn't oming the corner. I'm actively driving. My eyes were wide open
Yes.
in that moment.
Sometimes I think you can just have a focal point, and that alone can
Yes.
be it, whether it's like a picture or a crystal or a bell, or it doesn't matter what it is, but just having a small focal point can help. And you can honestly, when you're, if even if you're traveling and you're thinking, oh, I'm leaving my sacred space behind, you can take an item with you to kind of help you be able to focus or set up a little space in your hotel room or feel like you can just pull over on the side of the road and do a little, communing or whatever it is. There's so many ways to kind of have a little altar on the go, if that makes sense. And we'll put like a whole checklist of it on Patreon. But it's really kind of fun to play with like different items and different ways that you can invite that in and just take it with you. And that way, no matter where you are, you've already designated those items or that particular grouping as a part of your sacred space. So wherever you are gets to become that.
And on that note, if you haven't listened, go back to our previous podcasts where we talk about learning about your own intuition. Because if your sight intuition, if your auditory intuition, scent intuition, I would definitely include that as part of your altar to begin with as you're growing that so that you have an easy way in to that sacred space that already works for you,
Yes.
So that's my little 2 cents there.
I love that. I also feel like the important thing for you is to feel that connection, whatever that looks like to you. So if, that just feels like a little bit of stillness or a little bit of clarity, or if that feels like support, whatever support feels like to you, that's definitely where that connection can happen. And honestly, anywhere can be a sacred space, depending on the intention you set or the safety level you feel, things like that. But the idea that we have to be in a sacred space to connect is not necessarily what we're espousing here on the Modern Mystic podcast. It's very much like you are the sacred space too.
Yes.
So wherever you go, you can carry that inner feeling with you and just access it. As we're all about, making sure that you feel like you're in charge of your spirituality versus I have to find a church to go to. I have to find a clearing in the woods. Like you don't
Right.
you can create or access that sacred space within you, especially if you're really clear on how your intuition speaks to you. You can have a really profound experiences just in the middle of the day or in the middle of traffic
At
or
the grocery store,
yes,
wherever. Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, the image came back to you as a child at the ocean. And when you were talking about swimming, if you've ever swam in the ocean, you realize the tininess of you in this sea of all that we are part of on this planet. And that's, there's something to going deep within your own being, your body. They can give you that same sense of you're so small and part of this vastness. And wherever you are, you have access to going deep within you with an altar, without an altar.
Right.
I like tools. Like I like my tarot deck with me. I will carry certain jewelry with me that will help me ground. I have a hard time if I'm around really stressed people. I tend to just like go off in my mind and leave the space. It's not really helpful if you're there for a business thing or right. So I'll wear certain jewelry that as I touch it on my fingers or my wrist, it will remind me, stay here, stay present, right? And that can be part of sacred space is using those tools to help you achieve real world practical things. Sacred space isn't just so we can leave our lives and just visit this other world all of the time. That's not the point
I agree.
of sacred space. It's a place to visit and come back with helpful information, tools, gifts to carry us through our everyday life.
I agree.
So take your altar with you and charge it with what you need to bring back. So we would love to hear what's sacred space to you guys.
Absolutely.
Or any experiences you've had where sacred space just came upon you and you followed that call. I think that's one of the cool things that you've really touched around today is following that call to your sacred space.
I agree. And yeah, go ahead and share it on social media and with a little hashtag that says Real Estate.
Oh, I love that.
Mystic Real Estate hashtag. I love it. And we'll be able to see all of your sacred spaces, whatever they look like, and be able to join you on a little pilgrimage to your spaces.
She's so good at this.
Virtually.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay. And check out the Mystic Folk Patreon
Oh yeah.
for guides to setting up a travel altar.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks.